Alright, just started the live in a few moments. Ben Utz going to join me. We're going to talk about his experience. He took a gap year in England for a year, and then now he's going to play college soccer starting this year. So he's joining right now.
Hey, how's it going?
What's up, man? How you doing? Alright, so if you could just introduce yourself, tell us like name, age, position, and where you'll be playing next year, and then we'll get into it.
My name is Ben Utes. I am 19 years old. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. I generally play winger, but I can also play like outside back as well. And I'm playing college soccer, like at Haverford College next year, like a small D3 liberal arts school up in Philadelphia.
Yeah. Phone keeps moving. All right, so first of all, if you could just give us like your background, like starting. You can start from like when you started playing soccer, whatever sport you played first, and then just work your way up till where you are now. That'd be good.
All right, story time. All right. So I was born like in Chicago, Illinois. I started playing club soccer there when I was like really young, up until I was 7 years old, and then I moved to New Jersey when I was 7 years old. I played for like multiple clubs there. I played for STA. We were actually pretty good. I played for TSF Academy. Then I moved to Atlanta when I was 12, and then I played for like 3 different clubs, NASA Top Hat, and I most recently played for Atlanta Fire United, like in the ECNL composite, and like I played some games with the ECNL team, and started the whole recruiting process like my sophomore year. Just started basically like emailing coaches, and then the summer of my junior year, I went to like a bunch of ID camps. I went up to Colgate. I played at Amherst College. There's this camp. It's called like PPA ID camp. I played there 2 times actually, and yeah, like my top 3 in terms of schools were basically Bates, Colby, both schools in Maine, and also Haverford. And I basically applied or early decisions at at Haverford. And this is like the fall of 2018, and then I basically got in. So that was actually not very stressful at all. Once I got in, I was like, okay, well like I'm going there now. So but yeah, that's pretty much it though.
Okay, and then you did say you took a gap year after you graduated, right, and went to England.
I did, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, of course. So basically after high school, I I really wanted to get work experience in, and I also wanted to travel, and play soccer. So during my spring semester, after like working for a while, I went to England. There's this program, or there's this club. It's called GPS, which basically stands for Global Premier Soccer. Global, it's called Global Premier Soccer, and basically they have like various like academies like in Europe. Um, and we basically contacted the coach, just like set all that up, and then I went there. Um, I was like supposed to be there from basically mid January to about mid June, but of course because of the virus, I had to go home like at around March. But it was like an insane experience. I mean, the quality of play there was really excellent. Um, I played with some really good players. But like it was definitely like very hard at first, because I mean, like I was training like a bit at home, but I mean it was definitely like a shock for me. You know what I mean? Because all like all these guys were like playing like every day. Um, the pace like of the game like in England, it's just like so fast. It's very physical. Like I'm tall, but like there's some like very big center backs like will basically like bully you like around. So it's definitely hard to play. But I got I got like used to it though. So yeah, like it was awesome though.
Oh, so you didn't take a full gap year. You just your spring semester you went there for
I
6 months or so, or it's
I did.
supposed to be 6 months.
Yeah, it's supposed to be 6 months, but yeah.
Oh, so your guys' season was it like right in the middle of the season and got cut short?
Yeah, exactly. So basically, my parents decided to actually take me home, like in basically mid March, because there was this whole travel thing, like with England, because
Oh
for
yeah.
example, if I was like like stuck in England, I don't want to be there for like basically like 3 months by like like by myself. So that'd be tough.
Yeah, that would be bad. Just
Yeah,
chilling in England. Ooh.
exactly.
So, and you said you started junior year, reaching out to schools, going to camps and all that.
Honestly, bro, like it actually might have been like like freshman year, because the first college camp I went to was actually at Northwestern, like in Chicago, while I was like visiting family, and that's kind of where like the whole recruiting journey started, and like um, talked to some like D3 coaches there. Like like my goal like in recruiting, like I just wanted to go to like the best like academic school possible. Um,
Hmm.
I mean, my family like really values like grades like an academic, so I basically started like reaching out to schools like like my freshman sophomore year. But the good thing was that like I was mainly targeting D3 schools, some D1 schools, but I knew that like my athletic fit would like mainly fit like a very good D3 school. I mean I feel like if I were to play D1, I probably would have like sat the bench for like a couple of years. So I wanted to like play right away, which is good. So um, but yeah, and then like I started basically emailing schools, but although obviously the D1 schools really couldn't contact you like until like your junior
Hmm.
year. So but yeah, I mean I was able to get like some interest my like junior year, but the sucky thing was that I really wasn't targeting like any schools near me at all, because I'm from Georgia, like Atlanta, so mainly looking like at schools like up north, like in the Northeast. Some schools like in the West, for example, Trinity, Texas, like I
Oh,
was looking at. Yeah, like they're in your college. And I actually did take a visit to Colorado College, which is also in your conference too. Yeah,
I think you commented something about that on one of my videos, or maybe it was
I
someone
did. Yeah, that was absolute. Yeah, yeah, like I can talk to you like about that too. But yeah, the whole recruiting journey was just like a roller coaster. You know what I mean?
else. Yeah. What was your experience with Trinity and Colorado College?
Yeah. Well, definitely Trinity was like a lot different. I mean, I reached out to their coach my freshman year. Really great guy. But the thing was that he never actually saw me play in person. Um, which kind of sucked. Like I asked him if he was going to be like at the camps where I was, and he was mainly going to like basically going to camps like out west. And they have like a really good team, Trinity. Very good team. Great coach. Like he's been there for like 30 years, I think.
Yeah.
But really good team. Yeah, so that like unfortunately didn't work out at all, because like I just don't think like they actually saw me play at all. But for Colorado College, man, it's funny. My best friend Charlie, or from school, he's actually going to be there next year. He actually took a gap year like me. Really good player as well, probably much better than me, but really good. But actually, so I went to their ID camp my June of my before my senior year. I didn't really play that well there, but I did stir up some interest though. And then I did go to that. I did go to that camp up in Massachusetts, like at Amherst College. Um, and that's when like he said that, hey Ben, I'd like to invite you like, on a visit. Like I was like super excited. Then I actually went like on a visit there. Um, really great guys on the team, loved it. That was actually my first visit to a school, like official. You know what I mean?
Mm.
But my dad like paid like for airfare and everything. And then I basically went there, and then like at the end, I thought that like he would give me like an offer, or excuse me, like an offer, or basically tell me whether like I'll be like on the team or not. But I didn't really like hear that much from him. But they're both like like really good guys. But then unfortunately, 2 weeks later, I didn't really like hear like anything back from them, which is kind of odd, because basically the application deadline for early decision was basically 3 weeks after my visit. So like I kind of wanted like her, you know I kind of wanted to actually like know like ahead of time, like if I was actually going to be like applying there. And then they basically just said to me, yeah Ben, sorry about that, we can't like offer you like a spot. And I was like, dang.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. I think that's the thing with the ID camps is it can be hard if you're not like already talking to the coach a lot. Because I remember I went to one for UCCS, University of Colorado Springs, and they were D2, and I thought I played pretty well. I mean, there's a few times where I'm like, oh, that when I look back, I'm like, that's probably why they didn't email me after, because the coach
yeah.
would be screaming at me in the scrimmage like after a goal kick to like sprint up because I was playing outside back, like get up and wide, and I just my habit wasn't doing that, and he kept telling me, do it.
Yeah.
But it was like they were like, oh yeah, we'll email all of you, give you feedback, we do this, and I emailed them like multiple times before. I talked to the coach during the camp, and then after I emailed them, and I never like got a single response. So it was kind of frustrating. But so that's just what I tell people with ID camps now. Like just from my own experience, I feel like if you really feel like I can go out there and like show everybody like I'm the best and like I'm good on this camp, but a lot of those players, it's like they've already been on like good terms with the coach, or they have like a good relationship. Because I remember there was one player there, he was pretty good, and but he wasn't like amazing or whatever, like
Exactly.
miles ahead of the rest of us. But it was clear like he'd been talking to the coach before, and then like when I followed him, I was like, oh, he committed there like a little bit after the camp.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, dude. Like I feel you. I mean, the thing is that because like I actually have four younger siblings, and actually my two younger siblings, Rachel like and Maria, they're actually starting the college process as well. Like I've been basically helping them out with that. But the thing is that, dude, like the thing is that you really need to be like in contact with these coaches, because I'm telling you, some of these camps will have like over 50 people there, and especially like if there's only coaches from like that one school, it's going to be pretty hard to actually get like on their radar, like right away, unless you play like absolutely like amazing like at the camp.
mm-hmm.
But I mean, that's why I prefer going to camps where there's like multiple coaches there. So basically like increases the people like more coaches like will actually see you play. But I mean, especially the summer before like my senior year, even like some D3 schools, they already had like multiple people like on their radar before the camp.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really good to like basically keep in contact with them before like even go to the camp, because that's really crucial.
Yeah, for sure. Because it's a whole lot harder if they haven't heard of you already,
Oh yeah.
your gameplay, and then you just show up like some random kid at a camp. So that
Yeah.
was, I knew going into UCCS, it was like they haven't emailed back. I don't even know if they've seen it. So it was, and I could afford it. It wasn't like I was spending like all my money just to like last hope, like last wish is this camp.
Yeah.
But it was like, you know what? Like I worked, I can pay for it. Like let's try it out, and it was still a good experience. I had fun. Like I met a few guys there, and like I still like follow them like till today, and like
Yeah.
so. Yeah, that's just how I think of it too, like what you said. And someone asked, "What did you do when you went to the visits?"
At the visits. So basically, when I went to the visits, well, I basically went on 4 visits. I visited obviously Colorado College, and then after, I visited Colby College, up in Maine, and then I visited Oberlin College, which is in Ohio, and then obviously after like I committed to Haverford, I did take a visit there during the conference game. But usually when I first got there, I basically sat down with the coach. Although for basically 2 of them, I got there actually very late at night. But I basically met some guys like on the team, and then I basically stayed with other freshmen like on the team, and then like I basically slept like on like an air mattress like in their dorm. But it was actually really cool though. They were actually really, I mean, all the guys that I met like on the Pittsburgh are like very nice, always asking questions, very receptive. And then I actually went to a couple of classes that next day with them. And then usually, well, yeah, like every single visit, I did see him play. For one of the games for Colby, I actually sat by the bench, which was cool, which was dope. But then for Haverford, I saw their conference semifinal game from the stands. But and I also saw them practice as well. Met the coaching staff. I also talked with admissions. So basically, on my visit to Haverford, I basically committed to the application process. But while I was there, I actually talked to the admissions director, like, and I also had my own interview there. Just like talk to them, like ask me questions like about myself. But yeah, I mean that's mainly what happened though. Mainly just saw them play, like with the classes, ate at their cafeteria. So yeah.
Yeah. So the answer for me, not on visits. There's only a couple of schools I visited that like like the coaches are actually interested in me like playing soccer. There was a few I visited just to like visit, I guess. Like just went to like a couple local like bigger schools.
Yeah.
But for the teams like that like interested soccer wise, I remember beginning of my junior year, it was like a camp, but they also did a lot of stuff like on campus. And it was in NAI in my hometown, and that was a really good experience. Like the first time I ever like got to really see like college soccer and train with other guys on the team. And then so yeah, we obviously played, practiced, and then I got to like tour the campus. I got to sit in the classroom, like ask players questions, ask the coaches questions. And my parents were there with me, or at least my mom. And then yeah, like the last night we watched like one of their games and we were on the sidelines. So it was like really intense, like really fun to see that.
Yeah.
And then so like I made a video about like video or going on visits, like what I recommend. Um, and another school I visited was Park University, Gilbert,
Yeah.
which is a local NAI. And like in that video, I said like try to meet the coach whenever you can. I didn't get to that day. I think he was out of the office or something. So try to like reach out to the coach before you go, set up a meeting. And then it's also like you said, it's good to meet with players. Unfortunately, when I went to Shriner for my visit, it was on Thanksgiving break, so no one was there except the coaches.
Down, yeah.
But like when players visit now, like I've had a few of them stay with us, and yeah, basically they like sleep on the floor.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Not the
But
best. Yeah.
yeah, but it's like we're all chill. Like we're not gonna bully you or haze you or something if you're a recruit. Like, and then
Better off. No.
yeah, so when you go on visit, just try to meet with players, set that up ahead of time. Try to like meet professors, coaches.
Yeah.
Um, if it's off season, try to ask coach like, is there training with the team I could get in on, or like indoor games or whatever, because that's what we do a lot. And then if it's in season, like I definitely recommend like you did, trying to see an actual game and like be on the sidelines with the team to like see what the environment's like.
Absolutely. Yeah. And also, I just want to add as well. After the camp as well. Well, I also forgot to mention this, but what's really important about college recruiting is that obviously stay in contact like with the coaches, but what's also like really important is that you want to basically talk to the coaches about your schedules constantly, because and like especially after camps. I mean, for example, some coaches didn't really respond to me like after the camp. So basically, I like how to reach out. But for example, Washington Lee was also like another school that I looked at. That was in Virginia. I actually went to 2 camps there. I actually thought I played really well the second time I was there, but unfortunately, nothing really happened after that. But you really want to and just honestly ask them basically straight up, just like ask them, hey, do you think like I could play here? Do you think like you can offer me like a spot? Because there were like a lot of schools that like like if I were to go back in time, I would definitely be like like much more direct with the coaches, like especially later on like in the process. But for example, 2 schools like in particular that were kind of reaches for me. For example, Bucknell, and also College of William and Mary. Both of them D1 schools, both of them stretches. But yeah, I mean honestly, the coaches were like super honest, saying that, hey Ben, we already have guys like on scholarship. Maybe you can walk on, but like it's gonna be pretty hard for you, to get like a spot, because like they already finished the classes. So, that's actually really nice, because like it basically narrows down your list. So that's all like also like really important, like just like ask them basically straight up, saying like, hey, do you think like you can offer me like a spot there? That's like really important.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, because when I signed up for NCSA, they had like recruiting coaches you can talk to.
I had the same thing, yeah.
Yeah, and they're all saying the same thing, like be direct. Like you can start out being a little more vague or like introducing yourself, but once you get into those like steps in the process where you're seeing other people like commit and sign, and you really need to be direct. And it's like there's nothing wrong with straight up asking, like, can you see me on this team, on this program? And I had to ask that to a few schools. Like I remember one was Fort Lewis, like a D2,
Yeah,
and I
really
knew
good.
it was getting like October, November of my senior year. So I was like, okay, this is like the last like chance for
Yeah.
these D2s and stuff. And they were still kind of entertaining, like replying. And then they just straight up said like, sorry, don't have any spots left or something along those lines. And then even with a few other schools, you know, it just helped like more than having a vague response. They just said no. Like, you really think about it, it helps you more. You just cross them off. You don't have to waste your time reaching out to them. So that's a good point. Just be direct.
Absolutely. And also, like, I want to point off what you said like, when you were videos is that, you know, there's definitely a problem like with basically contacting coaches is that, you know, basically some of them don't actually, you know, respond at all. That's what you said, which is like so true. Especially like a lot of these, you know, like D1 schools, I noticed that, I mean, a lot of these, you know, like big schools don't actually have personal emails like of the coaches. They basically have this, generic, like, you know, like email. So like obviously, you know, like Duke, for example, I mean, unless you're playing like academy, you know, like top of your game, it's really hard to get recruited if you're just like, you know, like some random player like me, like, you know, like they've never actually, you know, like watched me play. But it's really important to, you know, like there's a YouTuber called Spencer Muller. He has like all the emails like of the D1 schools, which is like, you know, like super helpful. But, you know, especially during, you know, like late on, you know, like junior, senior year, the college recruiting process is just like a snowball effect. Once guys just get picked up, it just like keeps going and going and going. Like it goes fast, you know? So it's really important that, I mean, even if they don't respond, I mean, I would just basically, you know, like email them, like once a month. Not like, like spamming them, but just, like keeping them updated with my schedule because you know, like sometimes they wouldn't actually respond to me, but, you know, like they actually knew my name at least, which is good. So that also helps as well.
Yeah, for sure. I actually made a video about that too, and I thought, like you said, those points are also true. And
Yeah.
I think it's unfortunate though is that like that list like Spencer Muller had like these coaches change like every year. So like this list, like it's a lot of it's on you. Like even NCSA, they're one of the biggest, probably the biggest like recruiting website and all that, and a lot of their stuff would still be outdated. Like
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
think they don't have the same. Since I went to Shriner, when I was getting recruited, when I signed, there was 3 coaches, and then when I showed up, one of those coaches left and we replaced them, and then this year we're down to 2 coaches, and the coach that just joined last summer is the one that's still here, and then another one that was there when I signed left. So there's only since I signed, only the head coach has been there here since then. So
That's
it's like
the exact same with me. That's so funny.
so yeah, that's something that's kind of unfortunate about college, like this college soccer stuff. Coaches move around all the time. Even at like the big D1 schools where you think they have like long stay, it's like if you get a couple seasons and if you don't prove yourself, you're out. So that's something that like those lists are really cool, but unfortunately a lot of them like you should probably double check like is this guy still here? Sometimes I'm like that'd be really cool to do for people, but then I know it'd be like every 6 months I'd have to update it around some given wrong.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah, just to do it yourself, let alone try to get every single one. Can't imagine that.
Yeah, like also off that point, what's also really interesting, like I didn't say it, but basically, having these connections with coaches is actually really important. For example, like a lot of these coaches, like at ID camps, they can actually give like references to other coaches, especially because, well, for example, like I live like in Atlanta. There's actually like a school. There's a D3 school. It's called it's called Oglethorpe University. They actually have like a really good soccer team, but also they're also a D3 school. But the assistant coach I've been training with a lot, really great guy, but he actually can give references to other coaches, and that really helps. Like for example, dude, like honestly, my fall like in my senior year, I didn't have that many options because a lot of them were kind of like fading out. So basically, I actually first reached out to Haverford my August of my senior year. Like, and it's funny because the first time I was on campus, I was actually I was actually visiting, like this D1 school, Villanova. But actually, like I went to Haverford, and then I was like, you know what, this school might be like a little bit, like too small for me, which is funny because like I'm going there next year. But basically, I went to the Colgate camp, and then basically the former Haverford assistant coach, actually both coaches left to coach D1 schools, and then afterwards that assistant coach, I asked him, saying, hey man, can you actually reach out to the school for me, because like he actually used to coach basically the year before, so that was like a really big help, and like I basically got like on the coach's radar. So I'm telling you, connections with like coaches, it's all like a bubble, like all these coaches basically talk about like all these players themselves, so it can really help.
Yeah, that's something like I try to tell people too, is that you don't want to leave any bad impressions or just
Yes.
ignore anybody, because coaches know other coaches, and like you might think they're all like enemies, like, oh no, that player's mine, but it's like
Yeah.
a lot of them, they have very specific like needs, or like
Yeah.
it's not always that you're not good enough. It could just be, okay, we already have like 4 outside backs, we already have, or I'm trying to run this formation, and your style doesn't really fit in it. So a lot of them are actually like helping each other. They're all good friends, and like, oh yeah, you should check out this guy. Like my roster's full, and even like the top like D1, D2 coaches will talk to like D3s or NAIs, like, oh, that guy could play for you, and um, yeah, and then also like the coaches, obviously when you're at college, if you're trying to go pro, that's a big connection. And if you're transferring, or a coach leaves and then you're thinking about transferring somewhere else, you want to be on good terms with them. And
Absolutely.
yeah, just in general with people, don't leave a bad impression, whether you're there for a week for a camp or you're spending 4 years at college. You never know who they know.
Exactly. And basically, like, for example, there would be some schools that would actually, like email me like after showcases, and they weren't necessarily like an academic fit for me. So I'll basically say to them, hey, thank you for like I would send like a text like or an email saying, hey, like I appreciate your interest in me, but unfortunately your school is not a good fit for me because of because of this reason, which is like very very professional, doesn't burn bridges, like, and you're also like honest, and you're also honest, like, and you also save the coach's time as well, because they'll just be like, okay, they'll basically cross you off your list, and they actually really like appreciate you being like very very professional, and like especially because there's some schools that basically like stop their men's soccer program. For example, University of like Cincinnati this year just stopped their program, which is like like a big shock, because you know D1 schools have like 9.9 like full ride scholarships available. So having those connections with other coaches can help you transfer. I mean, like I'm not like I'm gonna say like I have it for like all 4 years, but like if you were to transfer, like it can definitely help connections. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, it's just, these connections are always good to have, good to make. And
Absolutely.
too many people, like you said, that's exactly what I tell people too. If you're not interested, tell them the reason. Don't just be, oh, you're not good enough for me. Like, and straight up tell them, just like you'd want a coach to tell you, like, oh, we're not interested, so they don't waste their time. Do the same for them, and then it's not going to be like they get mad. Because I remember one of the first emails like I got when I opened up like my NCSA account was from a D3 in like Massachusetts, and I just told them like, I don't even remember what the reason was. Maybe they didn't have my major, but they're also like, I didn't want to go that far away from home.
Yeah.
So I just told them that. I was like, okay, thanks. Let me know if anything changes. So it wasn't like, oh, F you. Like, I don't ever want to talk to you again.
Yeah.
We're not interested in you anymore. It's like, okay, appreciate it, but if you change your mind, email us back. So
Absolutely. Yeah, and like the thing is that I know like you mentioned like in your videos, like for example me, like when I first went to IB camps, I was like super nervous beforehand, but because like I see like all these coaches like basically like huddled together, watching the games, like like with your notepads out, and like and I was like, oh my gosh, like if I make one mistake, like then I'm gone. But I'm telling you, man, like these coaches, like I haven't really, I mean, I don't have like a problem like with any coach. Like they're all very nice, all of them, like very honest, although, like some of them don't actually respond like on time. Like that's hard, but they're all very nice. They'll be honest with you. Um, so, and like I would say to them, for example, for my sisters, before they go to ID camps, like don't be nervous. Just, like play your game. Don't try to be like, like selfish, take everyone on, like 1v1. You can be selfish like at times, but coaches like want to see players that are, like on the ball, making like good decisions, and also they also really care about like your outwards like appearance, like off the field. You don't want to be like like some kind of goofball, but like you also want to be, like very, very professional, because these coaches also want to see whether you'd be like a good fit for their team, like their personality traits. So like that's also important as well.
Yeah, for sure. And that's like the big reason, especially the higher division schools, D1 and D2. It's almost always like the first thing they want to see you play in person, and they want to see like natural environment. Obviously, a camp isn't like your own club team in that, but then that's even more so. They want to see like how are you going to react to like new people? How are you going to get along on the team? How are you going to play if you're not playing your preferred position or you're asked to do something else? Is it going to be, oh, I don't want to, or are you going to like step up and
Yeah.
do good? So that's part of the thing too. The ID camp shouldn't it shouldn't be the only thing you think about is just, oh, I'm just going to show I'm better than everyone else here. Like,
Yeah.
try to be a good teammate, try to like be respectful to coaches and realize they're not like the big mean guys like judging you every mistake. Like almost every single coach I've met, at least in person, they're like respectful, nice, they'll listen. It's not like they shrug you off. They're walking to a game, they'll stop, like
No,
listen to you, and they'll tell you like, okay, I got like 2 minutes. Like, all right. So
like rush you. But yeah, what would you say, like, for your experience, what is the most important part, like, of the recruiting process, do you think? I mean, looking like help, like my sisters, like, what do you think, like, is the most important aspect of it, like, overall? Like, if you don't do this, like you're set up for failure.
I mean, there's obvious things like you need to have decent grades, you need to be a decent player, but like I think the one thing for 99% of players, like if you don't reach out to schools and coaches, um, your chances of actually playing are going to go down like so much. Obviously, there's a few schools, even with me playing at a really bad high school, playing at a club where it was really unorganized, and we were decent, but still we weren't out winning tournaments, and we weren't like state league or ECNL or USDA or any of that. So, and I still had a few coaches that reached out to me first. So maybe if I didn't reach out to any, I still could have had a chance to play college soccer. But that's just the thing. Like, you don't like a lot of the schools that will reach out to you, unless you're big, like your name's in the papers. It's going to be like local NAIAs, maybe JUCOs, maybe like I had a lot of East Coast teams just out of nowhere DM me, but some of it was just like kind of general like emails. So that's like the biggest thing for me. Like if you want to play college soccer, you need to reach out. But then if you do have, coach, schools already reached out to me. If you want to have options, you gotta like email places, reach out to schools, because like let's be honest, like school and state that's it could be a bit like a big D2 school from California. They would never found me. Like there's no way.
Damn. Yeah.
Not, and I didn't get recruited by a big D2. I'm just saying, like, if you want to play this school in this state or over here, if you want to do more than just play at a local JUCO NAI or just some small little school here or there, like, you've got to put yourself out there and make them pay attention to you, because it's like finding needles in haystacks.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, like, you raised one point. We talked about the emails. Yeah, but also the biggest myth that I hear like about college soccer is that like if you're good enough, coaches like will basically go to you, which like can be true if you're like like a 4 like or 5-star recruit. You play like at an MLS like academy, like you go on like to the showcases, like like you're started like on those teams. But like I definitely wasn't that player growing up. Yeah, like I wasn't even rated like on basically Top Drawer Soccer. Like I wasn't even like on there. So I mean, especially like if you want to play college soccer, you really have to be proactive, like email coaches. I mean, obviously there are like new restrictions coming out with like for example recruiting, like especially during this pandemic. I mean, coaches can't actually see you play in person, so it is important also to have like a highlight tape. Fun fact, I actually didn't have any highlight tape during high school because I mean I had some clips, but they really weren't that good because like I had some guy that like like kind of flaked on me. But for me, it was definitely very important, to like basically reach out to them. Like I actually had really good grades, so like that helped me as well. But yeah, that's just like a huge myth that I hear people saying like, oh, you know what, like I can just play really well like at this camp, and then like all these coaches will just like start like emailing you after, which like it definitely can be true, but it really increases your college soccer opportunities if you're actually proactive emailing them. So yeah.
Yeah, the highlight film is definitely a big thing too, because even if you just have one basic highlight film, if I'm a coach, I'm not going to recruit someone because they have a 3.8 GPA and it says that they scored 10 goals and like 5 assists, but I don't see a single like clip of them playing. Like, I just don't
Yeah,
think that's
exactly.
smart. Even
Yeah.
like getting recruited just from highlight videos, sometimes I'm like, I only have like 3 or 4 highlight videos, and that's what you're recruiting me from. It's kind of crazy, but still, um, you know, adding all those things together gives you the best chance. Having a highlight film, having a recruiting profile or CV, and you're reaching out to all of them, these schools, sending them all that stuff, and then having those connections. Like when you combine all that, that's when you get your best chance. And if you already had like a good chance, then now you just have better options and choices to pick from.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I also wanted to ask you about playing in England, since that's something like really unique about you compared to most other
Yeah.
players. So we went over there January, you said, right?
Yeah. January. Yeah.
And that was of this year, right?
Yeah. For sure.
So when you went over, first of all, how did you find this like program,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
and how did you like get set up with it and all that?
Yeah. Absolutely. So I kind of started researching like during like late fall of 2000, late fall of basically last year, um, and I basically reached out to some programs. There were some like in Germany I looked at, some were actually in like South America as well, and then like some others like in England. But a lot of these like big clubs, for example, GPS has clubs all over the country, but they actually just like abandoned like operations because they went bankrupt apparently. That was like in the news. But you mean yeah, so that's like a whole different issue. But they actually had like academies all over Europe. They had one like in Portugal, and you basically fill out this form online. That's what I did, and then there's this whole director that I talked to, and he basically went over like all the details. Um, my parents paid for it, just for like each semester. I also saved up some money from the fall, so that helped as well. But they basically pay for like lodging. I mean, I basically stayed like in a house with like all the players, and there were like a lot of players from the United States who were there as well. And I was honestly one of the few who didn't really want to play professional right away. I actually firmly believe like in the college soccer I mean, unless you're like a top tier recruit, I'm nowhere near that. But I definitely want to get like an education first. But I mean, there were guys going there that were like getting trials with like some English pro clubs, um, and so yeah, I mean that's kind of like how I heard about it. But it was, I mean, I actually shared like a room with basically three other guys, and it wasn't the best accommodations. I mean, we had like bunk beds, but our bathroom was absolutely tiny. We had like a tiny shower, but we got like like food every week, so it was like really good though.
So were you getting like college credits earned from that, or was it like high school credits, and do you get your diploma like from that school, or how did that work?
Yeah, so different kids like on different paths. So actually last year I actually graduated high school, so I already had my diploma. And basically, when I basically asked Haverford to basically defer a year, they actually told me one of the rules was that I couldn't take any classes for credit, because they just want kids like we were taking like a gap year, just like focus like on the experience, not take any classes beforehand. Um, but there were kids while I'm there who were like 16 years old. There was one kid from Colorado. He was just taking basic classes, and there were actually these coaches within the club who actually managed all the kids like academics as well. But I was with like a bunch of kids who were basically like playing college soccer the next year. But yeah, I mean there were kids that were still there still doing their schoolwork. But like I'll be honest, they didn't necessarily do it, like every single day. Like it's very tough. There's like a lot of distractions. We live close to the city called well, we lived like in Bracknell, but it was like not far from London, easy train ride. So like on the weekends we would just like watch soccer games, sometimes play for teams. But um, yeah, I mean, like it was kind of like loosely mandated because like it was honestly like up to the player to actually like focus like on the academics themselves. There are people that we like check on them like every week just to make sure like they're up with the schedule. But yeah,
Oh, so you were just doing soccer while you're there then, pretty much.
exactly, yeah.
So, playing over there, what was your typical like schedule like,
Yeah,
daily and like weekly?
absolutely. So we trained Monday through Friday in the morning. Sometimes we had doubles, but we usually had every day strength and conditioning in the afternoon. So we would have a session. We would wake up. I'd wake up at around 7:30, eat breakfast, and then we were just we were honestly like a 2 minute drive, or sorry, just like an easy walk to the field. Not a drive, like we just basically walk to the field, basically right beyond our house that we stayed at. Trained for about like an hour and a half. We usually did fitness like a couple times a week, and that was actually really hard for me at the beginning because all these guys were like in shape, like, and I was it took me definitely like a couple of weeks to like actually catch up. But we did like strength conditioning like in the afternoon, like at the club. There weren't like actual we didn't have like a very nice weight system, but we had this like trainer that we used, really great guy. And then we would play games usually on Wednesdays. So they were so basically Bracknell Town Football Club. It's actually like this like semi-professional club. They were in the eighth tier of the English pyramid, but they were honestly probably going to get promoted to the seventh tier, which is like basically like semi-pro level. Um, but they also pay their players, not us because I didn't sign for them. But what's also important to add is that when I first got there, I actually had to get this clearance to actually play with the like with the reserve side. So it took me like about a month for like all the paperwork to actually be like approved. So I could play with the reserve side, and I was actually practicing with them, like twice a week, on top of with the other guys like in the house. But unfortunately, I couldn't play like any games, which sucked. Um, but yeah, I mean, it was honestly like a shock at first, but I mean, like you love it after like a couple of weeks because like you're playing with like really good players, you get better. But yeah, the coaches were like really good too, all like ex pros. So
So when you went over there, was it like you said the paperwork? Um, I've heard certain countries in Europe can be really tough with like visas and then players, but I think it's more of like signing because that's more money. Whereas for you, obviously the club wasn't worried about like, oh, should we spend money on this guy or sign him to a contract? So was visas and like all that stuff not really too big of an issue to you?
yeah, I think the thing with visas is that for players that are actually trying to get paid like like accommodations. For example, Become Elite, Max Sheldon, he talked about his
Hmm.
experience playing in Germany. But what happened was that it was actually hard to get. Well, once you get a visa, that like allows you to play pro, I believe, in different countries. But the thing is that sponsors in that club have to like pay for your like accommodations, and it's definitely harder being overseas. But basically, when I signed the paperwork for the English FA, they call it, I was playing. I wasn't going to be signed to like a pro contract. I was just me playing for like a reserve side, which is like in the. I mean, like I wasn't even playing for the first team, which is like in the seventh tier, and they were. Honestly, people were just like, well, like they're like in the seventh tier, like like they're not even that good. I'm telling you, watch them practice, and you'll be shocked at how quick they move. The first team manager was just really like in your face, like yelling, but he was like a really good guy, but he was very rigorous. I mean, they moved the ball so quick. And for example, I actually watched them play on like a fifth tier side in the national. They're actually like a pro team. Like, and we actually beat them 1-0. So um, there's definitely some, like some players honestly can definitely play pro that were like at the club. But I mean, the competition level was just like a shock for me, honestly. Playing high school like in EC now, it's just like a whole new level.
Yeah. So when you went there, all the so were all the teams you played just within your own league? Like when you were playing with the reserve team, it was all other eighth league teams, and you were actually part of like the competition for that.
Yeah, so they're basically different leagues. For example, the first team played in this league called the Isthmian League, which is basically this semi professional league, and then the reserve team played like reserves, like basically other reserve sides from other from other pro like basically semi pro clubs. But also keep in mind, I was actually 19 at the time, so I couldn't play for the U18 side. So I was playing for the U23s. But keep in mind, the U23s, all the players weren't actually like under 23. There were some guys that were like actually 30, like some big guys. So definitely like hard to play with them. But yeah, like for example, we played like some local sides. But for example, we actually played against some. So I would play games with the guys like from the house, but it would mainly be like like friendly games. But also, our team also had players from England who basically played like locally, that also took classes nearby. But I mean, we played some professional like academy sides. For example, I mean, not like not like like for example Chelsea, not like like teams like that. But for example, Eastleigh is like in the fifth tier. They had this. They're a pro club. We played their U18 side, so I was definitely older. We beat them the first time, but we lost 3-0 the second time. We also played this six-tier team that was semi-pro, like in London. But I mean, I was actually older, so. But I'm telling you, man, like for example, we played this team called basically Reading. Reading like is basically like in the championship, which is basically second tier. We played their U18 development squad. I mean, dude, honestly, they were better than honestly a lot of the DA teams I've actually played against. I mean, they had some kids that were just ridiculous, really quick, and they moved the ball so quickly.
Yeah. So when you're in England, obviously you said you started like reaching out way before you actually went on your gap year. So it sounds like you committed and signed to Haverford like during your senior year, and then you told them like I'm gonna take a gap year. So then they were fine with that. Is that how it worked?
Yeah. So I'll be honest, my coach was probably like a little bit disappointed because I mean, obviously like when you recruit players like you want them to come right away, um, but I told him during like my early winter of my senior year that hey, I am considering taking a gap year. I would like to get some work experience, save up money, and also go go to England and play. And he's like, okay, because I just didn't want to basically be like, I don't want to like surprise him being like, hey buddy, I'm going to England, basically surprise him, But I basically told him like ahead of time. He was really nice about it. Also really supportive of it because obviously it was going to make me like into a better player, better like a lot like into college soccer. But also to be honest, like our team had really good forwards that were there right away. And honestly, I'm not saying like I wouldn't start, but I mean, I think that they probably would have gotten first dibs like in front of me to play. I mean, we had basically two like All-American strikers on our team that were really good. So, I mean, I also wanted to, I also want to play right away because I just want to just just like anyone, like you want to develop, but you also want to be like on the field. You know what I mean? You started, like most of your games your freshman year, like which is really rare, which is really cool. But that same with me, like I kind of want to get like a lot of playing time. So that wasn't the main factor, but I also wanted to play overseas because like unfortunately I didn't get the opportunity to do that in high school. So that also like really like intrigued me as well.
So that first half of your gap year before you went to England, were you just like working and training that whole time? Just home.
So I was actually working. So I didn't really just want to like stay at home. I basically moved in like with some guys. There's just like this gap year program where basically all you do is that you basically stay with like other guys. You basically pay rent every month. But I was working like 40 hours a week, like at a restaurant, but also I was also training like at this local league. And like most of the guys were like in college, like or basically after college, like I mean, there were some really good players, but there were also some like like really crap players as well. But it was just good, like to like get fitness. It was in North Carolina, and it was also very hot as well. So like like that also helped my fitness as well because um, playing like in hot climates really helps as well, like your endurance. So yeah, I basically told the coaches like in England like my background, and they said that they think I'll be like a good fit. But I mean, obviously there are like different levels for certain players. I mean, for example, there were only 2 players in the entire house who actually played with the first team, or actually 3. But obviously, it's very difficult. I was one of like a couple who played with the reserve side, so that was good. But the good thing like at the club was that there were like for example different levels that you could play at. So that was very good about it too.
Yeah, that was the next thing I was going to ask. So with the GPS program, that was the only like club they were partnering with in England. So if you're living in a house, like you had to play or train with Bracknell Town.
Yeah. So like in the house, there were guys like mainly from like America. One guy from Canada. One guy actually from India. Um, One guy from Africa as well. But I mean, honestly, everyone there got a chance to play. I mean, honestly, no one there no one there stood out like a sore thumb. Like everyone there was like like very good. Um, so like everyone there like had the opportunity to play. Obviously, like the basic level, like it's just playing with the house league, but you still played against like some really good teams. Like for example, we played like Eastleigh, like I said, like a professional like academy. But obviously there are like other options to play. Like obviously the first team, which is obviously very rare, but then the reserve side. But also that club also had youth teams as well. So if you were like 16, you could play for the U18s. Yeah. But also to keep in mind, I also forgot to mention is that there were some guys, man, while I was there, because I was over 18, they were like a lot easier, like in actually getting me like a clearance. It only took me, I think like 3 weeks, but there were guys there, man, that honestly didn't get their clearance for about like 3 months to actually play with the U18 team because they were actually under 18, so they actually needed some kind of visa or something to actually like be qualified to play. So I forgot to mention that, but because I was over 18, it definitely made it like a lot easier.
So I guess to kind of wrap things up, we already talked about like advice for like college soccer recruiting and that. What would your advice be for other players looking to do something similar? Go overseas to a different team, whether you're in a program or not. Just what would your advice be for someone specifically from like America going over playing with an overseas team at a high level?
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, just to start, like for any footballer like a soccer player, you want to figure out what your goals are. I mean, if you want to play college soccer, I think taking a gap year like is a great idea, especially if you want like an extra year to actually develop. And I think that going there can actually really help you your opportunities like to actually play early on, because I mean I can just tell the coach knew that I was actually taking this seriously. You know, playing like overseas, that's like a whole different level like a competition. Like the football there or the soccer there is very different than America. Um, but obviously, I think you mentioned like you're trying to play pro, right? So um, I think also getting experience overseas, and like I said, like my coaches like having contacts as well. Those coaches in England played also played professionally. Like for example, my coach's brother is the assistant coach for actually Bournemouth, the team like in the Premier League. Like I'm serious. So I
Wow.
mean, obviously, I'm not gonna play, like for Bournemouth, but I mean, if you're good enough, I'm telling you, you can. There's like a ladder. Like for example, Spencer Muller like has this ladder about like all the steps. Like play
Mm-hmm.
college soccer, become like a standout, be like all confident, like all American. But I mean, football is like a ladder. If you want to like if you want to play pro, or if you want to go to like a great school like I did, like play like at a great school, like academically or like soccer wise. Um, Definitely reach out to other academies, and it's honestly not that hard. I can post on my story or like on social media about like different programs that have like academies overseas. But I mean, for me, my parents like had to pay like out of pocket for it. But also I was looking like at other programs within the States, for example, like IMG Academy. They had they had they had like, for example, postgraduate programs, but that was honestly way too expensive for me. But yeah, but I mean, once you figure out your goals and like, like where you want to play, like just basically write them down, and then every day focus on what you can do every day to basically like accomplish them, whether it's play like in England, contact coaches. Um, but yeah, like everyone else, or I mean, like everyone is on their, their own like unique path. So, um, what might be for someone, for example, me, I don't think I'm not going to try to play professional. Like, I, I, I was my main goal like in college recruiting was to play like at a very good like academic school. So, but I also wanted to play early on, so that's why like I went to England. But if you're trying to play professional football, I mean, especially if you go to like a D3 school, like I'll be honest with you, man, it's extremely rare for someone to play D3 unless you're like an All-American to basically go, directly to the MLS. I can go like on a different rant, like about the MLS draft later, because I mean, I think like it's a joke, to be honest, because most of the guys don't actually play for the MLS. They mainly play like in the USL, but I'm telling you, getting experience overseas can really help you develop relationships like with coaches. So yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that was a great point with the goals, because
yeah,
that's just something like how you heard. Obviously, my season got pushed back to spring, but I'm just keeping the same goals, and now it seems even more like, okay, I can see myself like getting it more because, my goal, I want to be first team all conference. And then I was just thinking, this summer I've had some doubts and like frustration in practice, because I'm like, you're out for like 3 or 4 months, not really full-time training with my ankle. And then you're just getting 2 or 3 months before the season to train. You think you're going to be first team all conference. So let that doubt kind of get in my head. But just in general, like you said, keep those goals. You got to work your way up. No one just goes from, regular old high school club, boom, MLS, or, Premier League, or even the fourth division of England. You got to work your way up. And almost every player, unless you're like, I don't know, Wayne Rooney, and you just worked your way up through the academy. Even then, it's like, okay, from one level, then the next. You didn't go from U14 to the first team. He had to work his way up. So, and you see so many of these pro players, they play for like multiple teams. It's not like the NFL where you play in college, you get drafted, you play for the same team for your whole career. Unless you're Messi, you're going all over trying to work your way up through the divisions. So that was a great point. But we'll just wrap things up here. We got like 2 minutes left on the live anyways. But
sure.
So thank you for your time, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
That you had some great points, and really interesting to hear about taking a gap year and also playing over in a whole other country and what that can do for you. So is there anything else you want to say before we go?
Yeah. Well, first off, subscribe to Josh Newlin's channel. But also thanks for inviting me, man. I really appreciate it. Maybe I can shed some light like on players, and also if anyone like has questions, feel free to DM me, DM Josh. Like he has like really good like information like about college soccer recruiting, pro like anything like that, soccer related. So, but yeah, and also like about this, like pandemic, like it sucks honestly, but don't try your best not to lose motivation. Everyone's experiencing the same thing. You're not the only person like me, like why they're like their season canceled. Like I was thinking like in my head, well, like now that my season's canceled, like I don't have to, like I can just basically wait to train. But no, don't do that, man. Like keep working every day, keep having goals. Just because something is delayed doesn't mean like you can't like actually like achieve it. So yeah.
Yeah, great point, man. I'll just say the same thing. Just stay positive. Whatever the situation is, just keep working hard. Keep your goals, keep your focus. But thanks for your time, Ben. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and like you said, I'll post this on IGTV and YouTube. So if you guys missed the live, or you can watch it back there, and I'll be sure to mention you in that too. So thanks for everyone who watched live. Thanks again to you, Ben. Good luck next year with college and your season. Hopefully you can get all this worked out and push through it. So
yeah, thank you, man. I appreciate it. See ya.
Yeah, have a good one.
You too, man.